Hi, Fletcher. Thank you so much for coming to the show. I really appreciate it. How have you been today?
You bet. Thanks for having me. I'm doing exceptionally well and looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, same here. Super excited to talk to you and get more about ocean values, which we talked about last time, which is going to be topic of our today's episode. So, yeah. So before we get to the topic, I want to know more about you, how you became a life coach and what are you actually doing? What actually motivated to become one?
Yeah, sure. So I'll tell a little bit about myself. I love to play piano, drums, guitar. I love to
Yeah.
sing. I love to swing dance. Love to play pickleball. Love to exercise. But my passion really is talking with people about how to rewire their brain and their nervous system so they
Hmm.
can begin thinking different thoughts in order to produce new results in their life. That's what really, really lights me up. Um, and
Yeah.
I and I got interested in this when at a very young age in elementary school. My first personal development book was a book you probably recognize. It's called The Power of Positive Thinking by Mr.
Yeah.
Norman Vincent Peale.
I read the book as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And that kind of put me on this journey of self-improvement and kind of evolving my thinking. And I definitely
Mm.
had ups and downs in my life where I was more interested in it at times than others. But in my years ago in my previous job,
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to begin speaking all over the United States, to big corporations, small corporations, and I was in front of thousands and thousands of people, and I began working with entrepreneurs,
Right.
and with so many of them that I began seeing, I was able to identify patterns,
Yeah.
and those patterns I had seen in my own life, and I was working on those, and I began seeing them in the lives of my entrepreneur clients. And so I began finding myself in a coaching
Hmm.
capacity before I was even actually doing this for a
Yeah.
living. But I was enjoying it so much and getting such great results in my own life and in my clients' lives that I decided about a number of years ago to just leave my old business completely,
Yeah.
do this full time. And I'm telling you what, I'm so glad I made the move. But what's interesting about it is that, you can't, sometimes I think, oh, I wish I would have got into this sooner. But then I
Yeah.
realized, you know what? It happened at the perfect time. I probably wasn't ready, 10 years
Yeah.
ago. But 5 or 6 years ago, I was ready. And so you take things as they come. And I believe in perfect timing.
Yeah. Absolutely, it's true. Say everyone got the perfect timing, and God has planned for you. Whenever it's right for you, then you're going to get it. Even though try a million times, isn't going to happen. So, what was your first business when you started?
Yeah. So a long time ago, gosh, about, I want to say close to 20. Yeah, it must have been about 20 years ago now. I was instrumental in forming this technology company. It was
Right.
already in existence. It was a 3-person company at the time I approached them, but they were doing something really neat. And you'll
Hmm.
appreciate this because I'm sure you've gone online and said, are you in Manchester? Is that where you're at?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so you may have gone online and said, all right, I'm looking for a house or an apartment, 3 bedroom, 2 bath in Manchester for this much money. You hit enter and you get all the results, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So years ago, as you know, we didn't have that
Yeah.
ability to do that. So the company that I helped build, we actually specialized in that technology. It's called IDX.
Hmm.
It brings all the MLS listings and puts them on in a searchable online format. And so that's what I began. I began selling that and coaching real estate companies and real estate agents in how to use this technology and how to market themselves. And so we built a highly successful company. We were one of the first companies in the United States to actually bring this
Yeah.
technology to the marketplace. So that's what I did. And that's why I had the opportunity to get in front of so many audiences and work with entrepreneurs on a one-on-one basis.
Yeah. That's interesting. And what happened to the actual company then?
Yeah.
Did
So
you guys took off?
that company's still going.
Yeah.
I had a good run with it. And, there comes a time, as you know, in your life where you kind of
Yeah.
outgrow or you're ready for that next adventure. I've been an entrepreneur all my life. And so this is something that I've been passionate about, like I said, since elementary school, like
Yeah.
really just positive thinking and personal development. And I guess it took that long to really accrue the experience that I needed to become impactful with my clients.
Yeah, it's great. So like ever since then, like you are coaching entrepreneurs right now. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I love working with entrepreneurs because, in our world, we've got the Amazons and the Apple and the Tesla. We've got all these things, but it's still the small to moderate sized businesses that are the engine of our country. Of the world, really. It's all the little mom and pop shops and the small to moderate size businesses that are really keeping our world going and providing employment. And I know what it's like to be an entrepreneur. I have such a heart for entrepreneurs, and I've struggled. I've had businesses that have completely crashed and burned, like completely, where I lost everything and I had to figure something out really fast, right? But so I have such a heart for them, and I see them working hard and hard and hard. But frequently, what's missing is that mindset mentality. Is that mindset, right? Because just like me, I could work really hard. In fact, when things got tough, I would just double down and work harder. I'd work more days, or I'd work longer hours. But that didn't get me where I needed to go. What I was missing was a way of thinking that would allow me to operate from a place of abundance instead of scarcity, confidence instead of fear, right? Calm instead of anxiety. And when I was able to really manage my mindset, and which is my thinking, I began getting results that were radically different than what I had been experiencing. And it was a game changer since then. So that's what I want to share with my clients.
I can totally relate you to that. Like every time, we have like a lowest moment on the business wise, and this is not like you work more harder and get the results back. You can work more harder, but it doesn't really make you gain the results. It's all about like when I had some kind of hurdle you have to go through, just step back and come to my office and think about it. What's the different way to approach it? And first thing in the mind, which is came like you need to double down in your work, but it wasn't actually true. I came up with it like I need to work less in order to get results. You just need like a new strategy, new one idea, or like you need another people for like execute it and take it to the next level. So I totally understand like where you're coming from.
Yeah. New thinking, right? Thinking outside the box. But it takes something to think outside the box. It's really, we have to begin to practice thinking differently than we have. And while it's easy to say that, most of us don't understand how we think in the first place. So when you tell somebody, hey, you got to start thinking differently, they don't know what that means. They're like, well, what does that look like? Or maybe they think, oh, okay, I'll start thinking different. And then the very next second, they're thinking exactly the same way. So we're so practiced at it, but there is a methodology. And that's the methodology that I impart to my clients. We begin to rewire the brain and rewire the nervous system, which allows for literally different thoughts. Because you probably heard this, this fact, but brain scientists say that we think about 70,000 thoughts a day on an average. And almost all of those thoughts are the exact same thoughts that we thought yesterday, the day before, etc. So if we're not thinking any new thoughts on a regular basis, then it's going to be impossible to get new results because it requires that new thinking in order to produce a new result.
Results.
Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
With the experiences on a business wise, like I've been running business from age of 19, so about 8 years now. And before that, when I was 10 years old, I was involved with my parent business. So in Bangladesh, look after like real estate, is the restaurant, also transport business. So coming from that kind of background, I can understand like what come from like anything you need to make it changes. You need to change your thinking. Where I used to think like it's going to work the same way, but you have to change the whole system from your mind, and you have to open to that. We always like, oh no, this is my values, or this is my something I created imaginary thoughts in my head, and I have to go that way. But it's not actually true. In order to make the
Yes.
change, you have to forget about what you thought last year or last month. If something is changing right now, you have to change it. Like during the COVID, right? So people thought is a brick and mortar is only way. We have to open a shop in a mall or like in a high street, and customers gonna come. We're just gonna send some leaflet or like a flyers, and people will know us. But the COVID changed the whole thing. Like malls are closed, the high street shops are closed, even forced to be closed. So some people have to adapt with a new technology called internet, and be open your online store and do some marketing on Facebook, Google, and SEO. You have to learn things,
Yes.
and you move forward. And if you had the thinking of like 20 years back, most of them who had the 20 years back mentality, they got bankrupt during the time,
Yes.
and they didn't adapt. Even though Toys for
Yes.
Us, yeah, for instance, the
Perfect
largest
example.
retailer, yeah, they thought like they're going to be biggest in a retail. They have like a brick and mortar store, and they're not going to go online and not going to do anything online, and people will come. But it wasn't actually true. The Amazon came, and then uh, they just took over the whole market share. And yeah, you have to make the changes, and I absolutely agree with you. Like, but
Yeah. Yeah. Blockbuster was another example,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Blockbuster Video. I mean,
CDs.
they had the market completely cornered,
Mm,
and but they weren't willing to adjust their thinking and their approach. And I love what you said. You said something about questioning your assumptions or something earlier. And I love that because I just read a quote from Elon Musk the other day. It said,
yeah.
question your assumptions, you know,
Mm,
and fix what's broken and adjust to reality.
yeah.
And I love that. And I love that because, our assumptions they fly underneath the radar, so to speak,
Yeah.
right? They're like camouflage in our head. So it's quite a task and a practice to begin to question my assumptions, because first of all, I need to really get clear and present to what my
Hmm.
assumptions are.
Yeah.
So I really like that quote, and I appreciate that you said that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just so true, isn't it? And
Mm-hmm.
also come across with the, like we need more small businesses to do well rather than big businesses doing well. Because we need like anxiety, depression free like a community and society. The only way is like loving what you actually do, and loving
Yes.
actually what you do without having a boss, which is like a business. And having a business, I don't recommend people to make $1 billion business, everyone. So there will be like a no employee to work with. Having a self-employed business or like a 1 to 3 people working on a business or $1 million business, it's completely healthy. And because you have to have like a balanced life, right? You have the
Yeah.
friends, community, your children, your family. You need to give the time, even though yourself, your hobby, like you mentioned earlier on this episode, which is are really interested to know, which is pickleball. You love to play. Then I have no clue what pickleball is. So people have that kind of like a thing. Even though with me, after this podcast episode, I'm going to play badminton. I go to mosque 5 times a day. I'm praying. I love spend time with my little one, my wife as well. If I was building $1 billion business, I wouldn't have any of that. And making the kind of money, it doesn't really mean it gives you like all of them freedom, and doesn't really mean it gives you like everything you love. Because more money you're going to make, a more big business you're going to make, there is a sacrifice to it, and you have to
Mm.
spend a lot of time. Not only time, your brain always like, oh, what's going on to the meeting and everything. You can probably see in like Mark Zuckerberg how often he goes to court every time he gets sued. Even the Google CEO and Sundar Pichai, I saw he's like every week for like some kind of lawsuit he's have to go through
Yes.
and everything. So that kind of anxiety and stress you need for having a big businesses compared to small one. You probably have a lawsuit of ever after 10 years or 20 years if someone don't like you or something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like a more safer business. So
Yeah.
yeah, congratulations to you, like helping small and medium-sized businesses, which we really, really need help with. So let's get to the topic which we going to talk about on this episode, and you're really passionate about ocean of values. So talk about what
Yes.
do you mean by the ocean of values?
Yeah. So what I like to suggest to people, because in talking with people, frequently they say, well, I want to find somebody who shares the same values as me,
Mm-hmm.
or we talk about values a lot, right?
Yeah.
When we're looking for a partner, whether it's a business partner, well, I want to make sure they have the same values, or whether it's a mate,
Yeah.
a significant other, like, well, I'm looking for someone, but I want to make sure they have the same values,
Mm.
family time. So let me just ask you a few questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Just to illustrate something, but I assume that you value family, yes?
Yeah.
And do you value freedom?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And do you value the ability to create wealth?
Yeah. Same time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I bet you value honesty, yes?
Yeah.
And you probably value creativity.
Absolutely.
And,
Yeah.
and how about loyalty?
I think is one of the main thing loyalty is. Yeah.
Yeah, loyalty is huge, right?
Yeah.
And we also value things like rest and health. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can see, I could keep on going on and on and on, and we come up with a list of 25, 30 values. Now, the interesting thing is that all of us have the same values.
Yeah.
So a lot of people think, well, I got to find someone with the same values. No. What I want to really encourage you to consider is that we all have the same values.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if we're of different faiths,
Yeah.
different races, different gender, different occupations. We all have the same values. So my point is this, and this is kind of alarming to some people when I say it, but I really believe your values don't mean jack. They don't make a difference in your life. Now, I'm not saying they're not important.
Yeah.
I think values are important, but here's what I think a value really is. A value is simply an indicator of preference. It highlights a preference that I want. I value family and family time. I value freedom. Okay, got it. We all do. So does the mafia. So does the mob.
Yeah.
So do cartels and organized crime syndicates. You see, we have the exact same values as organized crime, cartel, syndicates, mafia, mob, whatever you want to call it. Now, some people may be objecting. They're like, what are you talking about? I don't have the same values as a criminal. No, you do. We just got done saying we value freedom.
Yeah.
Do they? Absolutely.
That's why they're fighting for, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do they value family time? Huge on family. Yeah. Do they value loyalty? You better believe it, because you're going to get whacked if you don't have it, right?
Yeah.
Do they value religion or spirituality? Absolutely. Do they value honesty? Yes. Now people listening to me, but they lie all the time. No, they value honesty in their family. They value honesty within their team. Community. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Do they value being on time, being your word? You can see that we all share the exact same values. Now, somebody will say, well, yeah, but they're willing to murder. So it's not that they value murder. They valued something like loyalty, honesty, and the consequence was murder, because there wasn't, right? So I'm not saying they value murder, but we all share the same values. Now, if a value is simply an indicator of preference, then what really makes the difference in our life? And what I want to suggest to our audience is that the thing that really moves the needle is not values. It is the standard that we have around that value. So, right. For instance, sometimes I work with clients who value wealth. They value having money. They like the idea of having freedom with money, But then when we get in a conversation, it becomes clear they don't have any savings.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So their standard, what they're willing to settle for. So a standard is just what I'm willing to settle for. So
Yeah.
a standard, I say I value having money, but if you look at my checking account or my savings account,
I have nothing.
there's nothing, right?
Yeah.
So my standard is that
It doesn't align.
It doesn't align, right? There's a gap
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So just because I say I value it doesn't mean it has an impact on my life.
Mm.
So the value is the thing that really determines, the standard is the thing that determines the results in our life, not the values. And I think this is such an important discussion because I think there's a huge emphasis on well, you got to make sure you understand what your values are. No, we all have the same ones. They're pretty much a given.
Yeah.
But they don't determine the results. Like you just said, I think you just said, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I heard you say you go to mosque 5 times a day. Is that right?
Yeah.
So you clearly have a value.
Yeah.
You have a spiritual value, right?
It's true.
And you also have the standard that backs it up.
Yeah.
That it's the standard that gets you the results. It's the standard that ensures that you have that spiritual connection. Mm-hmm. Right. It's what kind of breathes the life into it. It's the action. Now, there are some people who claim to be spiritual, but they don't go to mosque 5 times a day.
No.
They may not pray. They may do things that their religion says don't do. So you can see that while they still value their faith, they don't have a standard that supports a high level of action in it. Right.
Yeah.
And so it determines the results they're going to get in that area called spirituality.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And I can give you another example, which is come to like a for like a relationship. So same way it goes with the relationship, like mentioned, like I value my relationship with my wife. So some people say like I value my relationship with my spouse, but they only spending probably 5 minutes a day or half an hour a day. They're so busy with their career and other things, even though they are home, they're not actually talking to each other while they're eating their meal. They on the phone, or probably get distracted something else, or checking your work email, or like texting someone. Even though they sitting in the same couch, they were watching something on Netflix, which is nothing wrong with it. But how much quality time you actually are having with your spouse or even your child? You can say, I value my relationship, I value my spouse, my children, but actually how much time you actually talking to your child? Is it like a quality time in there? Or just you just sitting on other side of the sofa and they're on the side of the sofa, they're on their like a PlayStation or like on their phone, and you on the other side on the phone, and you both sit down for 6 hours straight. But I say I spent time with them on 6 hours there, but actually was there actually any communication you two between? And just a hi and hello, you know what I mean? So that there is the action is not there.
Really good. That's a really good example. Yeah. So what I encourage people to do is like really get honest with yourself. Identify, first of all, what is my standard? If I say I value family time, which is a preference, right? I value family. That's my preference. Now it's time to get honest about what your standard is and identify it. So first of all, because people may not have, one of the issues is that we're not practiced at identifying our standards.
Yeah.
So for instance, in our household, we have a standard of connecting on a regular basis. So we have a standard at mealtime. We're not on our phones. That's the standard, right? Because it gets in the way of connecting. We want to be present. We also have a standard that we play board games on a weekly basis. So we sit down and we play Monopoly, we play cards, we play games so we're interacting.
Yeah.
And that's not just once in a while, it's on a regular basis, because
weekly basis.
Yes. Right. It's not just like accidental, it's planned, right?
Yeah.
Because that's our standard. And my wife and I love that you brought up the marriage, because frequently, and especially if you've been married for a while, it can be easy to fall into these habits where you don't connect. And then you wonder like, what's going on? Well, I don't feel connected with you. So like my wife and I, we have a standard of going out on dates on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So we're leaving the home. We're going out, just the two of us, no kids, where we're connecting, right? So, or with health and fitness is another good one. Like a standard of mine is that I have a standard about the weight that I want.
Yeah.
I'm really aware of that, but I also have a standard of I need to be able to, any day of the week, I need to be able to easily go run 3 miles, like no questions asked. Like that's my standard. If I ever got below that, that's not going to serve my life. So you know, and I used to be into triathlons, and so I was constantly upping my standard, right?
Yeah.
And then after I got out of it, I realized, but I still want to have a standard for my health, what I'm willing to settle for. So I realized, like, okay, I want to be able on any day of the week to be able to run 3 miles, swim a mile, and bike 14 miles. That's called a sprint triathlon.
Right.
And so I want to my standard is that I maintain my level of fitness so that I can do that any day of the week.
Yeah.
It's very clear, right? And we can do that when we begin identifying and creating our standards, we then have access to creating the results that we want.
Absolutely.
It's no longer accidental, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's going to lead my next question, which is how we are going to build a standard. How's the process like? You know, like
yes.
Forget about the results and just get to the standard first. And I know like it's not easy thing to say. We can create values, we can write down 30 or 100 values. We're actually doing the actual thing, the activity, even though like health-wise, you said you have to run for like 3 miles or things like that. It's not easy. Like someday you're gonna feel exhausted, someday you're not gonna be in the mood, someday you have a fight with your spouse. So you have to have a consistency. So how do you start and stick to the core of actually?
I love it.
Yeah.
Beautiful question. So number one, identify the standard that you want to have. Now, it's not going to be the standard you currently have because you're not there yet, but identify the standard that you want to have. So for instance, if you're wanting to buy a house or have a savings account for a vacation or college or whatever, but you don't have it yet, just get clear about, oh, I'm starting this and I'm all about taking baby steps and setting yourself up for success. Open up the account, put $5 in it.
Yeah.
Now you've just taken an action. It was easy. I opened up an account. I put, or even if it's a jar on the counter, you know, take that action right now. Put a quarter in. I don't care. Put something in that because your mind is going to pay attention to that. You're now beginning to think differently. And your mind is paying attention. It's saying, oh, we're saving money now. And now it begins to look to do that again because it feels good. Right? Because when you put money in the jar or in the account, you activate the dopamine in your mind, the chemistry. It feels good. And you begin to associate, oh, it feels good to save money. Ooh, it feels good to see the money starting to pile up, right? So first of all, we identify the standard that we want to have. And when I say identify it, we get clear about it. Like I want $1,000 in my savings account, or I want 100,000 or 50, whatever it is, get clear about it. Now, it's not going to happen overnight. So have a little self-compassion and patience for yourself, but you begin just taking baby steps. So that's the first thing. Identify the standard. Now, the second thing that's really going to accelerate this process is this. Get around people who already have the standards you want to have.
Right.
So, right. So when I first got into triathlons, my belief system was there's no way that I can do this. There is no way that I can do those long distances. I don't even know how to swim. So first of all, I had to learn how to swim.
Yeah.
And so I got around people who knew how to swim, who did it well, and I began hanging out with them. And so I had to get around people who knew how to ride bikes. I mean, I knew how to ride a bike, but like long distance bike riding, right?
Yeah.
So I got around people who knew how to do it. And what I found out is that every time I went out with them, I learned something. I got a little bit better, then a little bit better. I began seeing improvement, and my belief then began to change from I can't do this to
I can do it.
I can do it. Right. And then after I completed the triathlon, well, now I had 100% evidence that I could do it. Right.
Yeah.
So it made it impossible for me to go back to my old belief that, oh, I can't do that because I already done it. My mind knew. So the second thing and the most important thing is get around people who have the standards that you want, who have the result. Like you, for instance, you've got your show, right? You've got your business. You have an incredible story. You have an incredible mindset. So if people wanted to do what you're doing, they should get around people like you, right? Who are doing it. That's the biggest thing, because we usually rise or sink to the level of the standards of the people that we're around. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's just like sometimes we get too scared, like I won't be able to match up the person who I'm following. Or sometimes it's like they go beyond the person they're following. So sometimes some people follow their coaches. They've been coached by someone and they eventually make more money than the coaches. Even though they look for like a university student, some of them teaching business MBA, but eventually them students will becoming like a CEO of the biggest company. And the teacher is the teacher who he is at the moment. So when you actually decide to do something and you give you 100%, you see the kind of results. But sometimes if you get freeze, like seeing like what coming next, I won't be able to do that. I won't be able to match the kind of things he or she did. Then we get into the trap. I think you have to focus on your inner strength. We can model someone like this person is doing well. This is something I want to do. Then you look for like your own strength and do according to this. Some people like achieved it within 2 years. Like I see a lot of podcaster. One of the women I saw on like a Forbes magazine or something, she got about 1 million subscriber within like a first day. Got 1 million subscribers. She got about 10 million subscribers on TikTok. She boosted down. But it's not going to happen to everyone. Like a Joe Rogan show, like it took him like 10 years to build to where he is at the moment. Gary Vee, like he always talk about like his first Wine Library TV, 2 years, and like not many people are viewing his stuff. But right now, look at him, like everyone knows him in the business world. And everyone listen to his podcast and YouTube and everything. So if he was thinking like, oh, why didn't I get success in 30 days, 1 million subscribers, or like I didn't get to like where I wanted to be, then he wouldn't be where he is today. So everyone's journey is like a different, and we have to respect that. Only thing we just need to follow is like what is our own strength. Probably your strength is like you can work 18 hours a day. Probably my strength is like after 4 hours, this is the maximum I can give a best shot. I'd rather do that, right? So I'd rather give like my best shot in 4 hours than competing with you like 18 hours, trying to exhaust myself. And I know myself, if I do like 18 hours, after 1 week, I wouldn't be alive, or I wouldn't be like doing that job ever. I hated it and forever. So I'd rather focus on my own strength for 4 hours a day. This is what my capacity is. And if I want to increase it, I increase it like next week, I'll do 5 hours. A week after, I'll try 6. If it's not possible, I stick around for a while, 2-3 months, and I increase it 7 hours. This is what I can do, rather than like jumping 18 hours straight away, and like then I burn out myself, and I just completely don't do the task anymore.
Yes, I love it. And what I'm hearing you say loud and clear is like you're aware of your standards for your work. Like, hey, I know I'm at my best with a 4-hour workday. That's my standard. I'm going to be 100% focused for 4 hours, and I'm going to get stuff done. So that's I mean, that's what I hear is like you're saying like, that's my standard. That's what I'm willing to settle for. Right. And then if you want to do more, that's up to you, obviously, but you've got a clear standard around your work week, what you need to get done. Right.
Yes, absolutely. It's not like you do one day like 100% long hours, the next day like no hours at all because you burnt out from it today. that consistency is matters. Like if you think about like working for 1 week, 18 hours, how many hours is that? Probably 100, nearly 90 to 100 hours. And if you think about for like 10 years, you do the consistent 4 hours a day, how many hours is that? And you're
Right.
looking for like a long-term solution here rather than like a short-term thing. You can probably do something like a short term, like you're trying to convince your spouse or someone, like you met a girl or trying to date something and you never dated before, you're learning the new skills, how to talk to her and everything. You can do that for 1 week, that's totally fine. But while you're building a business, that's a long time thing. And
Yeah.
even though when you're married to someone, that's completely different thing as well. It's no hard work going to make any difference to it. It's about like looking for like a small little things day to day. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not about the roses flower every day. It's like, how are you doing, Tony, after you come from a work? Or like, shall I make the dinner tonight rather than you doing it? Or like, shall I give you foot massage if you need it? Like this kind of things matters for a long-term relationship rather than like one day you busted out and everything. You bought the red Ferrari for her. And after a whole year, like hey, you didn't even have no clue she exists in the first place, right?
Yes.
That doesn't
Yes.
really actually work, does it?
And I love that. That's a really powerful example you gave. I want to pause there because you're talking now about a standard in your marriage, right?
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing you saying is you're talking about a standard of giving back, contributing
Mm.
to your wife, right? Like there's a standard there. The standard is clear. You have a standard that says I give, I take care of, I give back, I pay attention to, I'm present with my partner.
Yeah.
And that's so powerful. It's so powerful to be present to our standards because again, it determines the actions we will take and therefore determines the results that we get. Again, values,
Yeah.
values are important. I don't want your audience to hear otherwise. They are important, but they are an indicator of preference. Standards determine the actions and therefore the results.
Yeah, so true. And how people can look for like their results? Do they have to be patient or they look for like instant results? Like we talked
Yeah.
about over and over in this podcast, but most people think like, oh, I've sorted out my standards and everything. I'm not seeing any kind of results. So what shall I do? Shall I give up on it or not?
Yeah. So really good question. So, so my standard is I'm persistent, right? I value persistence and my standard is that I am persistent.
Yeah.
I take action. And so I truly believe that if really important concept here, because most entrepreneurs have a sense, and my clients, I hear this from my clients too, I should be further along than I am, right?
Yeah.
I should be further along than I am. I should have started this years ago. And to that I say, you are where you are. You couldn't be anywhere else.
Yeah.
And everything that you've done led you to this point, which means you're exactly where you should be. So embrace that and trust. And usually what's missing is the trust, right? When we're worried that we're not going to be, that things aren't going to work out for us, what we're doing is we're stepping into fear and anxiety and worry, and we're missing the whole trust thing. No.
Yeah.
I'm trusting that I'm exactly where I should be right now. I'm trusting that I have perfect timing. I'm trusting that I am on track. And some people say, well, I'm too old. No. You're the perfect age.
Yeah.
You have all this experience from which to draw, right? Now is the perfect time. Some people, there's that old saying, when's the best time to plant an oak tree? Oh, 20 years ago. When's the second best time? Right now.
Yeah.
So, you're take advantage of the moment because that's all there is. So there's no better time. There's no more perfect time than right now.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Forget about the past. Like whatever happened. You can't do anything, like no make changes. What if that happened? Why if I started before? You can say if there, but that if doesn't really actually work right now. What I can do right now, what I can do for the future is most important thing. Yeah, I totally agree on that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, so Fletcher, thank you so much for sharing your ocean of values thoughts on that. And you cleared it for us. I really appreciate it. We are running out of the time for this podcast. So those who's listening, if they want to reach out to you, learn more about you, how they can find you.
Yeah. Please visit me at FletcherEllingson.com. That's FletcherEllingson.com. You can go there, grab a copy of my free ebook, or sign up for my free 5-video-day, my free 5-day video course. This course is not fluff. It is not filler. This is legit stuff that I use in my regular coaching curriculum with my clients. This is the good stuff. Or take my happiness quiz, or reach out to me for a discovery call. Just go to FletcherEllingson.com. If you are the person who wants to begin to rewire your brain, your nervous system to get off the chart results, to get new results, let's have a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing your details. And I really appreciate it, like coming to my show and sharing your knowledge and expertise on this topic. I wish you good luck, and thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
You're most welcome. That's a wrap, guys. Thank you so much for listening to this show. I really appreciate it. So till the next episode, stay safe, stay healthy. I'll talk to you in the next episode. Thank you.